Okay. For those of you who don't know, my name is Rachel, and I teach violin. I've played violin since I was 7, and before I went to college, my mom had seen a documentary that was about a town or the slums in South America, of this missionary couple that went down and started a music school where the gang violence and the gun violence was super high. And they traded, the kids could come in, trade their gun for a violin. And they learned how to play an instrument instead of worrying about whether they were going to be alive the next day. And they learned how to be a part of society and have respect and self-discipline and learned something more than just music. And my mom saw that documentary and she looked at me and she said, "Rachel, you're going to do something like that." And I was like, yeah. And back then I was like super pumped and I was like, all right, I'm doing this. And so I went to Olivet, and at my audition for violin, they were like, "So what do you want to major in?" And I told them, like, I want to start a music school where, you know, I can train kids to have more than just this, have life through music and learn to open up their hearts to what's going on, and just have that be my way into people's lives. And so they were like, "Wow, that's really cool, and I don't know how we can help you with that, but let's try." And so as time went on, I got into my 3rd year of college, and I was like, I should have done something else, because I wasn't really feeling the music thing, and I wasn't able to pass the tests that I needed to pass to get an education degree, and I wasn't able to play long enough to get my performance degree, and so I ended up just getting a general music degree, which is still really cool, but there's not a lot you can do with that. And I never, ever wanted to teach in a classroom setting, ever, because I had to do some practicum where I was teaching in a classroom setting with another teacher, and I was like, this is awful. Their posture is awful, the children are awful, I just can't do this. And but I had been teaching violin since I was 14 in private lessons, and so that was something that I was okay with, like one-on-one with a parent in the room, and I can look at the parent and be like, you know, rein your kid in, like what are they doing? And so then fast forward to, you know, Eddie and I moving out here, and I've always had a heart to go and to be somewhere that wasn't Chicago, because I grew up in Chicago. So we came here, and we started Eddie's ministry here, and I took it on as my own, and we've been here for almost 5 years. And I was just like, you know, this is my ministry. I'm just going to teach private lessons, and that's what I'm supposed to do, and support my husband. And then this week, I told Eddie that I couldn't teach any more lessons, that I was at capacity, I don't have any more room, mentally, emotionally, and time-wise, to teach any more lessons. And he was like, okay, what does that mean? And I was like, well, I can't teach any more one-on-one lessons than I already have. I'm at capacity. And he was like, oh, okay. And we're looking at trying to purchase a house right now, and so that was really overwhelming for both of us, because that means that our income is capped at a certain number and it needs to be a little bit higher. And so I got an email from a principal on Tuesday or Wednesday. So the day after I told Eddie this, I got an email from a principal at Miller Run School in Sheffield, and he said that he has the funds to start a music school or a music program in his school, and that he was wondering if I would be willing to help. And I was like, sure. Let me, look at that and figure out what that looks like. And so I went in for what I thought was going to be an interview on Friday morning. And I got there, and he was like, "I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming." And I was like, "Oh, hi. Yep." And he was like, "So, I'm just thrilled that you even came." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. That's exciting. I'm glad I came too." And he said, "Hey, let's go talk to the music teacher, and we'll sit down and talk about this. We're gonna make this program a part of our curriculum. So every kid in 3rd and 4th grade is going to take violin." And I was like, interesting. That's an interesting way to do that. But that's cool. And so I sat down with them, and we talked for 2 or 3 hours. And in the middle of us talking, he was like, "Yeah, so the reason why we decided to do this program was because my friend who's on the school board saw this documentary." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Yeah, of this town in, the slums in South America, and how they were trading instruments for guns, and how we can do that in our poverty-stricken area, and how we can change the lives of these children." And I went, "Yeah." "Yeah, that's awesome." And he was like, "Yeah, you should see the documentary." And I was like, I have. And it was just such an amazing moment in my life to go, wow, God, you've been preparing me for 10 years for this promise that you gave me. And for 10 years, I have been waiting and thinking, I messed up. I heard you wrong. This isn't what I was supposed to be doing. And you came and you said, "No, I still have a plan for you. I still have a ministry for you. I still have something that is important." And it took me 10 years to get the funds and to get you emotionally and get your self-esteem high enough to be able to teach in a classroom setting. Because now I'm super excited. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to go start lesson planning right now. And he was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." And and Eddie was like, "You want to do what?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Don't you think you're taking on a lot?" And I was like, "No. And if you would have asked me this last year, I would have said yes." And so it's just amazing what God is doing in our lives through the church, through this ministry, and that God speaks to us. And we serve an awesome God, a great God. And so yeah, that's my story. There you go. So we're going to start singing again. So if you guys can all stand up.